Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you have found the time for my ramblings. Thank you very much. It is officially British summertime. Hooray, we have made it. The sun is mostly shining and Ray has released her new album. Just know in my spare time I will be pretending to conduct the Hans Zimmer Orchestra for Click Clack Click. For the Click Clack Symphony song, it'll be on the loo, in the car, in the shower. The poor speaker on my phone is going to be absolutely knackered from the way I am blasting that song out. Anyway, welcome back to another episode of Only Dead Fish Go With The Flow. This week we are joined by Rebecca Coles, who is an offshore sailor, who will be diving into all the usual bits and bobs involving her sport, but also a smidge of ocean mythology around seabirds. You know, just to keep you on your toes and all. And it's my podcast and I do what I want. So, as usual, please follow the podcast. Wherever you are listening to it. And if you enjoyed the episode, then please leave a comment or review. Without further ado, to your weekly reminder that only dead fish go with the flow. This week we have another sailing episode, sailing brackets offshore specifically. You might hear some sniffling and snuffling in the background. It's not me and it's not Rebecca, it's Nevis, the 1-year-old spaniel. So just bear with us on that. And yeah, disclaimer, not me or Rebecca. But welcome to the podcast, Rebecca Coles.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for having us. We've infiltrated your home, disturbed your lovely dog, and now about to take up maybe about an hour of your time, plus the half an hour we had to eat our sandwiches on your sofa. But would you sort of like to name and explain your version of sailing, because it's offshore, so slightly different to Saskia's, who was, I'm not sure what the specific, 49er FX.
Exactly.
So yeah, would you care to name and explain?
Yeah, so I am a sailor and I'm primarily focusing on offshore at the moment. Offshore sailing is a kind of sport within itself of sailing, and essentially it's distance racing, so it's endurance racing. So we'll set off from one place and then it's different. It could be a transatlantic race, which is what I'm aiming to do. It could be something like the Fastnet race, which is where you leave the Isle of Wight and you race up to Ireland and then across to France. Or it could be something in the Mediterranean or around the world race, which yeah, it really depends. But essentially the premise is you're, going for a few days and you're traveling a distance.
So is it often you on your own or are you part of a team when you're doing this?
So a variety. Some of the time I'm with a team. In the past few years, that's mainly what I've been doing, which is sailing with teams and I did the Admiral's Cup last year, which was a 2-team event. So you going into the competition with 2 boats, and that team was 11 people on board my boat.
Okay.
So across the whole team, it was like 25 people if you include all the shore crew. So, and then the project that I have at the moment is a solo project. So that's just me, and some of the qualifying races are double-handed. So yeah, quite different.
Yeah, I was going to say, tell us a little bit about your solo project, your mission at the moment, because it is the Mini Transat campaign.
Yeah.
Is that right? You're going to have the better details about it, but you are aiming to be the first woman to win it in its 50-year history.
Yeah, so the Mini Transat race is a race that is really seen as kind of the university of offshore sailing. It's where so many offshore sailing legends, Vendée Globe winners, all of those sorts of people have done the race, done their own campaign, and then gone on to do all of these different things. And essentially it's a 2-stage solo race across the Atlantic from France to the other side. I mean, I would say Guadeloupe.
The other side. Where is that?
The past few years it's been Guadeloupe, an island in the Caribbean, and then for my edition 2027 it's actually going to be Brazil.
Okay.
Salvador and Brazil. But there is a stop in the Canary Islands, so in La Palma, and happens every 2 years. 90 sailors, you have to qualify for it, and you're all alone with no outside communication. So you can't pick up a phone and text or call anyone.
Like SOS,
Yeah.
need help.
When you leave.
LOL.
Yeah. There is no calling home, no Starlink. But yeah, the race has never been won by women, and actually it's been really underrepresented by women in general. I mean, the past few years there's been more women, but it's still only a handful, 7 or 8 per edition out of 90. That's a massive, massive number. So, yeah.
And how did you get into this? Because it's like, as like I've got a rowing background, so we always used to see like the sailors on like a tiny bit of river, and it would be like very much small dinghies and like kids learning.
Yeah.
But it never was the sort of thing where I was like, oh, I really want to try that. I was too busy going backwards and doing the same thing over and over again and having my own sort of different obsession. But yeah, what brought you to sailing, and at what point in your growing up?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Scotland in quite an outdoorsy family. We're always out and about doing things. My dad was really into hill walking and climbing, and we moved when I was 5 years old, just up the road from a local sailing club. And I was quite keen to give it a go, so I went and did a summer course when I was, I think, probably 6 or 7, and I loved it. And I just like hounded my parents to take me, and I was really keen to go and do it. So that club had quite a active youth sailing community. So I got into racing when I was about 8 years old, and I was doing all of the Scottish youth racing circuit. So yeah, my poor dad would drive me all around Scotland to all of these events in the freezing cold. And pretty much from when I was a kid, I was on that kind of pathway. I moved into the 420, which is the sort of Olympic youth pathway boat. And I did 2 worlds and 3 Europeans, and was sort of in that circuit.
Like casually drop those ones in. Don't lead with those. It's just, oh yeah, this one.
It was great. Like, I loved it. But when I was about 13 or 14, I saw Team SCA go around the world in the Volvo Ocean Race. And Team SCA was an all-women's Volvo Ocean Race team. And they were total pioneers, and they actually won a leg of the Volvo Ocean Race. That really inspired me when I was a teenager. And I was like, right, I'm going to do that. How do I do that? And I researched all of the girls, like Googled all the girls and what they'd done. And there was this common theme that they'd done something like the Mini Transat. I think 3 or 4 out of the whole team had done the Mini Transat race. So even back then, that was probably 10 years ago or over 10 years ago. I was like, right, I want to do that race because it's obviously such a big part of people's like journey. I went to Southampton Uni, which is obviously quite far away from where I grew up in Scotland.
Coastal though.
Yeah,
coastal.
Because I knew they did a lot of sailing and they had a really good sailing program. And yeah, when I moved away, I just made offshore sailing my focus. I did my first Fastnet race when I was 18, my first transatlantic when I was 21, as part of a crew. And I just did as much as I could, like racing and sailing on the Solent, and made as many connections. And then, yeah, finished uni and went full time with it. So
wow, it's like crazy. Like I know we obviously did, or I did rowing at uni, and I was like, oh yeah, there's a rowing team. University is such a great way to continue that sport at the time, or whatever sport it is. Like having finished A levels or BTEC or whatever it is at 18, and then you're like, now what? And like what direction? And I would never have been like, oh yeah, university will have a sailing team. Like in America, I'm like, oh yeah, university will have a sailing team. But in the UK, I'm not like. But then obviously when you say Southampton, I'm like, what is a coastal university? So obviously it's going to have some sort of coastal sport.
You would be surprised though. There's a lot of university, we call it teams racing, and essentially people race firefly dinghies. So they're 2-person dinghies, and the boats themselves look really lame, but the racing is super competitive, really intense. It's all really tactical, and the idea is you have a team of 3, so there's 6 boats, 2 from each, like 3 and 3.
Yeah.
2 teams, and you are trying to score as low points as possible. So say if you got a 1, 2, 3, you'd obviously win that race.
Mm.
But there's points combinations, and it gets really tactical, like people waiting at marks to hold up another team
Oh, really?
so that their two teammates can go by. And yeah, people love it. And you would be surprised, like Manchester Uni, Birmingham, Liverpool, like all across the country, there's university teams racing sailing.
That is really interesting. I find it so fascinating going and meeting different people and talking about different sports that you literally, rightly or wrongly, know nothing about.
Yeah.
Like, it just hasn't been on my radar, so I don't know about it. But then it's like, oh yeah, obviously uni would have a team. What do you think is, like, if someone's listening and they're like, I want to give it a go, what would you say is the best part of sailing?
Oh, I mean, you probably appreciate this being a rower, but being out in the water is a freedom that you can't explain, especially in my world where you go offshore and you become disconnected from what's going on in the world. Like, I just did a trans-Tasman delivery, so from Australia to New Zealand at the start of this year, and you just don't see land for 7 days. And that feeling, like when you come back into real life, it can actually be a little bit overwhelming. But I think people need to seek some kind of adventure and freedom in today's world. Like, we're so addicted to our phones and we're so connected to the point where I think you lose yourself. And just that ability to go out and do something that consumes you and takes your attention away from the news or, like everyday life, that is the best thing to me.
Did you see the climber that climbed up the tower on Netflix, and they like streamed it live, and everyone was like, if this guy falls, he is gonna die live on television. I think he was like interviewed afterwards, and he was like, our society, or standard society, not necessarily a group of people that obviously in a conflict zone, but like general population isn't experiencing like danger or putting themselves out there very much at all. And he was like, I think it is important, because then you get to like appreciate and all of those other like really positive things. But yeah, I thought that was fascinating. I was like, I'm definitely not gonna he was free climbing as well. It wasn't clipped in. It was insane. He's like right at the top of this building, and he takes his hands off and puts it in the chalk to like do the final bit, and it's insane. But yeah, I was like, I understand seeking a little bit of danger, a little bit of the thrill. Heights, not for me. Really not for me. What do you think the worst part is?
Once you get wet, you stay wet
Forever,
just until you get back on land. So when I did the Sydney to Hobart this Christmas, and we went upwind for 2 days, which was pretty shit because the sea state was really bad. So a lot of waves over the bow. And I got a wave over my head. And for some reason, so we're like rubber neck seals, which are usually really good at keeping the water out, but there had obviously been a little fold in my rubber neck seal, and the water from the wave went down and just soaked my underlayers. And then that night I just got so cold because I was damp. And then it's so hard to warm up. Like, that's definitely the worst part for me. Everything else, honestly, I don't mind a bit of discomfort. Like, I think it's good to live without comfort every now and again. But yeah, once you get wet, you stay wet.
We've also had some of the Atlantic guests on the podcast, Anna Zigig. I'm hoping I'm saying her surname correctly. Do you ever, when you're doing any of these crossings, do you ever see each other, or is it all like very organized, so you wouldn't like see, not that you're like busy, like the ocean is such a vast space, but whenever you're doing a crossing, do you ever see any other sort of like man-powered or woman-powered crews?
If you're doing an organized race, then it's quite likely that you would see someone that you're racing against.
But that like the same class, but not a different class.
No, it's quite unusual. Yeah.
It's like, maybe you guys, because she's gearing up to do another, I think, Atlantic crossing.
It's unbelievable.
In another 4-man team, and she was saying it's like her and her boyfriend and someone else and their boyfriend.
Oh my God.
That sounds like the worst episode of Love Island I've ever heard.
Yeah. Imagine.
You're like trapped in this boat for however long it's going to take, like weeks and weeks. Husband now, but yeah, I was like, you could not pay me.
No.
You could not pay me.
Could be a really juicy episode of Wife Swap.
Yeah, a really juicy episode of Wife Swap. So when you're doing one of these crossings, A, how long is it taking you? And B, how do you train yourself for that solitude? Because I know I would probably be fine with it for the first day, and the second day, probably grateful by the third day, but by the fourth, I'd be like, right, I need to see someone.
Yeah. I think it's something that will come, the solitude. I knew I was ready to take on the solo sailing when I was doing some double-handed sailing. And when you do because double-handed sailing is basically solo sailing with more sleep. And then you have someone to sort of back you up on the decisions. But I remember being double-handed on deck with the person I was sailing with. And he was doing a handover and he was about to go down to bed. And I was just thinking, okay, like you can go now. Like, but yeah, I think there's definitely going to be a moment where I'm out there that, again, it's no communication in the Mini Transat, so I can't just call someone. So there's definitely going to be a point where you face your demons and you kind of face yourself.
And it's a 20-minute sleep window, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think that would cause problems with my 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah. Your best friend is the autopilot when you're sailing solo shorthanded. That's how you sleep. You'll set everything up and, okay, you're happy. You can see that there's no other boats around you and you're going fast and you're on the right course. Then you can go grab a window of sleep. But obviously you don't want to sleep too long, so you'll have an alarm set and you just hope that that autopilot keeps doing that thing. It's a lot of trust to put in your equipment. Yeah.
And your knowledge to set up in the first place. That is crazy. Because we've come up to London for the day, and last night I was like, oh, I've got to make sure I get the right train. I've got to make sure I get up on time. Like, got to make sure I get to the right address. And I was like, oh, can't fall asleep, can't fall asleep, can't fall asleep.
Yeah.
And I can imagine when you're sailing or doing a crossing like that, you'd be so exhausted that you just like head on pillow. But I'd be like, oh my God, did I set autopilot or did I leave my straighteners on? Oh wait, I don't have any.
It's funny. It gets to a point where you're offshore sailing where you learn the noises. So like I find this in teams, like I find it quite comforting when I can hear the correct noises and I'll fall asleep, like hearing the winch above my head or like the runners coming on or the main going in and out. But then you'll wake, it's been quite a few times where I've woken up and then I'm trying to listen because I feel like something's
Not
happened.
right.
And then 2 minutes later, it'll be like, everybody up, we're doing a sail change. And there's just been a noise, like they've put a sail up on deck or they're sailing in a different way. And your body, I don't know, it's weird. Like you learn to notice.
It is. So obviously rowing, you don't really sleep unless you're doing what Anna was doing and you're doing an Atlantic crossing. But in the rowing that I did, you didn't sleep. But the noises that you're talking about, like when you said that, I literally can hear the noise of the water going under the shell when it was making the right noise as opposed to when it was making the wrong noise, if that makes sense. I can just hear it. I can picture how the water should look, like the top of the water. And I can also like literally hear the noise that I'm supposed to be looking for, and then I'm like, oh, I'm in London and I'm doing a podcast and that's irrelevant. But do you have a sailing sporting ick?
I think my sailing ick in general is a little bit about like women in the sport. It's
Okay.
still a little bit outdated, the sport, where sometimes people will be like, oh wow, like that's amazing that you went and did this, and like over egg it and make it a really big deal to the point where like it feels a bit awkward. And you're on a team full of guys and the guys, it's just like, nice job guys, and then they're like, oh my God, like it's unbelievable, as a woman you did this. Like I think that's my ick at the moment. Like I've had just a couple of experiences recently after a race and you're just like, just did the same as those guys.
Yeah.
Just, you know.
Obviously I just did that.
Yeah. It's hard because obviously you want to be recognized and everything else, but I think you spend so long being like, I'm just the same as those guys. Like I'm just as capable. I can do it. So then when you're like almost put on a pedestal for just like being the same, I find that like a little bit frustrating.
We have our Dying on the Hill section, which is kind of our main section, and it's got a few I guess, subsections to it when we were chatting about it earlier. Would you be happy to introduce it?
So my dying on the hill within sailing is that women need to be in more ownership and leadership positions within the sport. I think the way that it's structured at the moment is very much still that men are sort of owning teams as like private owners, but also the sponsorship structures are normally around like a male skipper. And I think that really sets the whole industry up to be like that structure of men being in leadership positions. I think having a bit more diversity at the top would showcase women's abilities and just bring a bit more diversity across the whole sport.
Because a lot of the like being able to do this sport is finding sponsorship and like self-funding. So would you be happy to sort of explain how that works?
Yeah, so there's kind of two parts of the sport. There's owner sailing, which is where an owner privately owns a team and they go and pick races that they want to do, or a circuit like the RC44s or, you know, the offshore Rourke circuit, and they will appoint a team manager and then the team manager will bring in sailors. And, you know, that owner is typically someone that's quite wealthy. So if the owner's not inclined to have a woman on board, then it's really hard to find the position. Sometimes you do get really lucky and you find like a really kind of forward thinking, like open owner that really believes in diversity. Like I myself do sail with a team like that at the moment, and it's just like so refreshing, such a joy, like really great. But it is kind of like luck, obviously, and because it's an owner, you know, owner sport, it's their hobby, so can't force them to like
There's
have
no
women
like
on board.
governing body to
Exactly.
enforce anything. No.
Yeah,
Okay.
there has been quotas come in. So the Admirals Cup that I did last year, there was a quota that every team had to have a woman on board.
Singular.
Yeah, singular women. There was a handful of teams that had more than one woman, but I mean, it was huge for the sport though, because it was this really high level event, like really historic, all the best sailors in the world, and they had 35 women racing, and that's like pretty unheard of. So that was really cool. And then the RC44s and the Swan 50s are two circuits as well that have mandated now one woman on board. So that's like opened up the door a little bit more. And then in the kind of offshore world, it's a lot more sponsorship driven. So people will create their own campaign, buy or charter a boat, and go and compete. So they'll pick a race. So it could be the Mini Transat, or it could be the Transat Jacques Vabre, it could be the Round the World race or the Figaro, and they have to go out and like seek the money to find it and then like build their team. So they have co-skippers, they have other sailors, and they have shore team members, and yeah, it's all driven by sponsorship. And generally those teams are a lot more equitable because they are a bit more reflective of the sponsors, you know, the companies. So they'll have like a commitment to diversity or whatever. So yeah.
It's such a like wild thought to me right now to be sat here in London in your lovely flat with your lovely dog, that there are people just like in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
Like right now. Do you have like this is like completely random to what we were talking about, but is there like a tracker where you can spot everyone at any time, be like, oh, there's a boat over there, well, I wonder what race they're doing? Or I mean, you probably know what race they're doing, but like, is there something like that? Is there like really extreme sailing Strava or
Yeah.
something?
There's kind of two things I'm thinking of. One is Yellow Brick. It's an app called YB Races, and you can like track the events that are on. So that's, I guess, if you know someone's racing. But then there's an app called Marine Traffic, and every boat will have AIS, which is like a beacon that transmits your location. And you can look on Marine Traffic to see like what that boat is
And what they're doing.
and what they're doing. So, I mean, it won't tell you if they're doing a race or something, but it'll tell you like where they've come from and where they're going. Marine traffic's quite good. Like I know quite a few sailors will just sit and like have a nosy. Like have a
I
zoom
feel
in.
like rowers are like that. They're like, wonder what's going on.
Yeah.
Going back to our dying on the hill, sorry, I was just had a little, brain fart over there. But getting sponsorship or finding sponsorship, that's quite a hands-on activity. Talk me through that.
Yeah, it's been a ride, to be honest. Like in 2024, when I decided, okay, I'm gonna start doing the Mini Transat campaign, I chartered a boat with my savings, basically, and I was quite naive to how the sponsorship thing would work. And I'd been asking around a bit, but I feel like you don't know what it's going to be like until you just start. And people are like, you just have to start racing and then the sponsors will come. And I mean, that year, the sponsors just did not come. So I had to kind of go back to the drawing room and be like, okay, how am I going to fund this? And you have to really start within your network, like people that you know that may be inclined to sponsor something. You start putting out the feelers. You have to be quite bold from the start. Like, I didn't have a boat, I didn't have a campaign, I didn't have anything. I basically had 2 events that I'd done with a charter boat, and I just had to start being like, okay, I'm going to do this race. Like, who's going to help me find the money? And you kind of work from your network and go out and you get emails and you get leads and you're emailing people, you're phoning people and applying for grants and just like going
Out and out and out.
out
You're
and out
like,
and out
somebody.
until you hit someone, you get an introduction, and then, you know, the introduction, it's got like a 20, I don't even think it's that high, 20% chance maybe of being a yes. Most of the time it's no. And then you just have to get lucky and find those people that believe in what you're trying to do. So yeah.
Fast forward like 10, 20 years, and we were talking about women being in ownership positions within sailing. How, the dream, would you be sponsoring, or how many crews would you be sponsoring to do? Or would you still be doing it? What do you think?
I think I'd still like to be doing it. There's a lot that I really want to do. Like, I for sure want to go around the world. The great thing about sailing is that it's an experience game. So we don't necessarily age out like other people do. So it's not like gymnastics where, you might not be able to compete at the highest level in your 40s, whereas sailing, your 40s is probably when you're at the absolute prime because you've gathered the ocean racing experience to be able to do the Vendée Globe or do the ocean race. So yeah, it's a good sport in that sense, and I hope that I'm still, bashing about doing it in 10 years.
What would you say to encourage more like female founded businesses, or like female ownerships to like get into sailing? Like, how do you entice the female fish and
To
not
sponsor or to race?
to sponsor? Because you're talking about like more ownership.
It's a really hard one, but I think like sailing is an incredible sport that teaches you so much about like resilience and about human character and about like who you are when you're really stripped back. And I think the stories and the lessons that teams bring back from offshore, like I've listened to a few keynote speeches of sailors who've gone and done incredible things, and I just think it's such a unique thing that you can't find many other places. And I think it's also for women, especially, hearing all these stories of women going around the world and doing all these hard and difficult things, it makes me think like, wow, we're so capable. Like, for example, 2 days ago, there was an all women's team that's just sailed around the world, and they've sailed around the world in 57 days, and they've taken a new record of the first woman to Jules Verne attempt. And it made me so emotional seeing them do that, because the Jules Verne has been something that has been dominated by men. I've only ever seen men do it. Like, I've never seen a group of people that look like me going and doing it. And that story's like kind of getting bigger than just the sailing world, because people are like, wow, we've seen this group of women aged from, the youngest girl was 23 on board and the oldest like in her 50s.
Wow.
Being a part of a team, lifting each other up, supporting each other for 57 days. Like, they tore their mainsail, they had all of these unbelievable challenges, but they worked together and they did something and they overcame like a massive barrier. And I think like that to me is so unique. And yeah, sailing as a woman, it is hard. It is like a bit gross and like a bit tough and not pretty. It's not like very Instagram, like, I don't know, it's not very like aesthetic, but I think like, how good is that,
Yeah. I was gonna say, but the attitude was like, how hard can it be?
Yeah.
Like throughout, I bet they had like a phrase that they kept going back to where it was like, how hard can it be? Or like, oh well, just do it.
Yeah, exactly.
That does tend to be the attitude. And I feel if there were mother and daughter listening, be like, well, yeah, I'm sure we could make something work. Like if
Yeah.
push came to shove, like, yeah, we'd need to learn a lot of the skills, but I'm sure we could manage.
Yeah.
I guess that's just the female approach. It's like, I'll figure it out, whatever it is. I'll start and then I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Could you tell me if you have a favorite moment in your sporting journey so far?
I think my favorite moments in offshore sailing are when you are racing and you have like an interaction with nature. Because I think that's always what keeps me in the sport. Like if I'm having a hard time with it, because obviously you have ups and downs with the sport, like you have these kind of magical moments that you're like, oh my God, I love this so much. So for example, when you see whales and like
I
dolphins.
was just gonna say,
Yeah.
this is like me channeling my husband right now, but he would be like, what's your second favorite whale or like whale experience?
Well, this year when I did the Trans-Tasman, we
Mm.
saw more whales than I've seen in my entire life in one afternoon. It was like we woke everybody up. There was like 6 of us doing this crossing, and it was like, everybody get up. Like there is just whales everywhere. And there was like mums and babies, and we think they're fin whales, and it was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. And then last year when I did the Fastnet race, we were like followed downwind by a pod of sperm whales in the channel. That was really cool.
They're the really big ones.
Yeah.
Like
With the square heads. That was really cool. And then you see a lot of dolphins, and everybody's when sailing it's quite funny. People are like, oh, I'm so bored of seeing dolphins.
I was
Which
gonna
is
say
just
that would
like,
literally be like my selling point to get.
yeah,
I want to say a dolphin.
but people are like, oh, dolphins, whatever. But I'm still like, I think they're really cool. Like, yeah, I still love that. And especially at night, you get bioluminescence, so the algae that lights up with movement. So when the dolphins go through the water, they light up like little torpedoes, and there'll be dolphins like sailing or I guess swimming next to your boat, sailing next to you, swimming next to you, and they look like torpedoes under the water because they're lit up like bioluminescence, and that is so cool. Like, and it's just this crazy kind of interaction between like technology and sport and nature, where you're racing and you have this team and you're doing your thing, but then also you have these incredible moments, and you're like, wow, I'm so lucky. So
That is a major selling point to get into
yeah.
sailing. I'm like, wow. To honor my husband, I have to ask, what's your favorite ocean animal that
Ooh.
you've seen so far?
I love birds. I love seabirds.
Okay.
So this year I saw a lot of albatross, and that's unbelievable. Like they are so big and graceful and beautiful. You just can't explain how amazing they are. And they have these wings, and an interesting fact about the albatross is they lock their wings into place.
Really?
So they start flying, and they're big heavy birds, so it actually takes quite a lot for them to take off. And then once they're gliding, they pull their wings back into their shoulders and lock them in place, and then they just glide like over the sea, over the surface, and it's so mesmerizing. So I think the albatross, or just any like seabirds. Yeah.
What's your second?
Well,
We'll do 1, 2, 3. So albatross.
okay. My second favorite is, my boat is named after this type of bird. It's a storm petrel.
Okay.
And they are little seabirds, and they ride on Atlantic fronts. So if there's a storm coming, they ride on the forward edge of the storm back to land. So there's loads of like mythology around these birds, that they're like the souls of dead sailors and blah, blah, warning you that a storm's coming. And back before you had radar and before you had all this, you hear all these stories of, the tea traders and everything, and they would see these birds. And I just think I love the kind of history behind those. They're really cute. They've got little like white arrows on their black tails. So they'd be my second favorite, and then my third favorite is the puffin.
I just got like shivers.
Yeah.
Saying that, I was like, I don't know why I'm getting a shiver about a bird, but I was like,
yeah,
ooh.
it's so cool. And this is the thing, like sailing just teaches you all this stuff. And like I remember doing a talk to one of my sponsors, and they're an environmental company, and I was sharing some of the stories I've had at sea, and they were all people that were really passionate about the environment and building a business in a sustainable way. And just to be able to like bring back those experiences of like what is out there, like when you say protecting the ocean, like what does that mean? Like it's pretty amazing. It makes you realize how lucky you are. Yeah.
And your third, the puffin?
The puffin, yeah. They're just so cute. And also baby puffins are called pufflings. And I just think that's even more cute. Yeah. I think one of my dreams, I've never seen like a puffin colony. One of my dreams is to like go up and see a puffin colony like in the flesh, because they're just so bloody cute. But yeah.
A little puffling.
Yeah. I love how this is like a performance sport podcast, and I'm just like rambling about my favorite seabirds.
It's just a sports podcast. It's like women who've been connected via sport, and like their view. You're giving like a snapshot into what that life looks like, and maybe someone will listen and be like, I want to sponsor that, or maybe someone will listen and be like, I want to try that. If they can do it, I could do it, sort of thing. Or it's just showcasing. There's I'll have to look up the statistic and put it into the podcast, but there's a statistic that most of women's stories through history haven't been documented. And like I saw a comedy sketch, it was like, if the Bible was written by women, or like stories were contributed, that thing would be like 6 feet tall. And like there would be so much detail, and there wouldn't be any of the problems we have today, because it would be detailed, it would be spelt out. So I need to look up that statistic to put it into the podcast. But it is just a collection of women's stories and experiences, really, with the link being sport, and also like people being able to then go and find somebody or act as like a sport directory, if you like. Slightly less beautiful and magical, but we do have our best fuck up. So do you have a best fuck up you'd be happy to share?
Yeah, I mean, my view on fuck ups, before I share my best fuck up, but my view on fuck ups is that you have to fuck up if you're going to get better. And anybody that says they haven't failed is probably A, lying, or B, like pretty average, because I think you have to like push through the fuck ups to like get anywhere. But
have to like trudge through the
yeah, sailing is pretty taxing on your brain. And I did a double-handed race with a guy, and English was his second language, and I was so tired, and I'd just woken up from a like 30-minute sleep in the middle of the night, and I was just like at my kind of low brain scrambled moment. And you have a pit area in sailing, so we're racing, we're doing this double-handed race, and he's like, I need you to like ease this off in the pit. And I just couldn't like translate what he was saying, and he was knackered because he'd been up, so he's like yelling at me this one word, and I was like head torch on, like trying to find this one thing, just like couldn't find it. And he had to like put the autopilot on, come and like fucking ease this thing for me, and I felt so embarrassed. And then we just sailed for like half an hour in silence after that. So whenever I think about
spoke again.
Yeah, well, we had to, because we were doing this double-handed race together. But whenever I think about like a humiliating moment, I think about that at least on a weekly basis. That moment, I'm like, God, I was just there, like the head torch, and everything's labeled as well, which makes it even worse. So my brain was not reading the labels, couldn't remember which was which was so dumb, because we've been racing for like 2 days, and I'd obviously done this like 20 times so far during the race, and I'd sailed this boat before and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, we kind of laughed about it afterwards, but also
I was going to say, are you still in contact?
Yeah, kind of. But it was one of those where you're just like, that was so embarrassing. I think about it and I'm like, oh, like die inside. But yeah, but I've had a lot of fuck ups. You have to fuck up, otherwise you're not trying very hard.
Agreed. Agreed. Do you have a Rebecca mantra or words to live by that you go back to all the time?
Yeah, I do actually. My two, if anyone from the Magenta Project's listening, they know exactly what I'm about to say. But my two words are be bothered. That's like my mantra that I live by. And it's like my antidote to when I don't want to do something. And it's one of my sponsors actually just rowed across the Atlantic, and he had Be Bothered written up in his cabin. He sent me a picture before he went across, and some of the girls from the Magenta Project, they gathered up some quotes from all the different girls and they've made it into stickers. So there's like Be Bothered stickers out there. But yeah, it's just, if ever I'm like, I can't be bothered, or you know, when I'm offshore, it's like I just want to get my bunk and sleep, but I know that I need to like take off my wet outer layers, have a drink of water, like, you know, have something to eat. I'm like, be bothered. Like, it always pushes me to do the thing that I don't want to do.
Be bothered.
Yeah. Or like, I don't know, I can't be bothered to go to the gym today, I'm tired, or like can't bother to go for a run, or can't bother to do this bit of boat work. And then I always have like, be bothered. And I think it comes down to like the work that you need to do is actually the work that you're avoiding, like in general, especially when you're building a project. So I think you always need that push to like do the thing that you don't want to do. And yeah, that just helps me get over the hump.
When do you think Be Bothered stickers are going to make the open market?
Yeah, exactly. I was actually saying this to Lena, who she organised the Magenta Project stickers. I was like, I need to make my own one of these.
You're like, hang on a minute,
Yeah.
that's mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, a trademark.
I did say to Ian, my sponsor, before he set off across the Atlantic, he was like, oh, I've got your mantra in my cabin. And I was like, fair warning, you're going to hate me for this. Like, when you are knackered and you're like, I can't be bothered to do X,
You
Y,
like
and Z.
look up and you're like,
And you look up and you're like, fuck you. Because that's what happens to me in my head when I'm like, I don't want to do X, Y, and Z. And then I just hear, be bothered. I'm like, God damn it. So yeah, that's mine.
when you're saying that, I was like, make it someone's problem, or make it a loud enough problem until they do something about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or what? Oh no, that was it. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking, I think my equivalent would maybe be the problem.
Be the problem. Be problematic.
Yeah, it's like, it's fine, I can just be the problem, and we will make the change happen because I am going to be problematic about this.
I love that. Be the problem.
Be bothered, be the problem.
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, you know, be the little dark cloud that comes onto someone's doorstep and is like, I need this to change now. Yesterday, actually. Thank you.
I love that. That's so good. I think my other one, though, I read recently in the last week. I'm like a big quotes person.
I love a
So I
quote
love
too.
this
Yeah.
like conversation. But somebody had written, it was like one of those quotes on Instagram, but you don't get handed the life you want, you make it. And that just like really resonated with me, like, because I've spent basically the last year raising money and not racing my own boat. And it's so frustrating. And like, you see all like everybody else racing, and there's projects I've turned down that I could have done that would have been in the short term like way easier, and you kind of get to the point where you're like, why am I doing this to myself, like blah blah. And now my boat's coming out the shed in a couple of weeks, and like I'm getting to the end of this like fundraising slog. You're like, okay, now it's all worth it. But I just love that idea that like, yeah, nothing's ever given to you, like you have to make it. So when you do get it, it's so much more valuable because it's got like all your hours of work. And yeah,
I just say, imagine when you get on the water and you're like, I did this.
yeah,
I don't know how much involvement you have in like creating the boat, but you could literally be like, I have done 95% of this. I've maybe not made this shell myself, but most of it I have done. I just think that would be so satisfying. Do you have any advice for any youngsters out there that are sort of seeking sponsorship? What would you pass on in terms of little pointers?
I would say what makes you different. Like, there are so many people looking for sponsorship for so many different things, and I'd say 99% of them are really interesting, unique projects that would be worthy of funding. So like, what's the USP in your project? Like, for mine, it's that, you know, the race hasn't been won by women. It's not been won by a British person. So that's my like USP. So I'd say, don't go into it and say, oh, I really want to do this. I really want to compete in this, because we're kind of living in an age where like a lot of things have been done. So what's your reason? Like, do you have something that sets you apart, or do you have a story, or is there's like something that you can conquer. And once you find your USP, then lead with that. Like, it's become a lot easier now. I'm leading with that, to go to people and be like, hey, do you want to be part of something unique that I'm trying to do? And it's got something that catches people's eyes. And also that applies to like how you approach sponsorship. Like, if you're just sending emails, cold emails out to people, like, you're probably not going to get a response. Like, you might get a response, but you have to kind of be a bit creative. Like, there's lots of tools like LinkedIn. You can phone people as well.
You can ring anyone.
Yeah, I've just started ringing people, and people are so bamboozled that they will agree to have a meeting with me because they're like, how did you get my number? I'm like, hello, I'm looking for sponsorship. Like,
Do you like puffins?
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to hear some stories about seabirds? Try and connect with people. That's like, sponsorship's all about, it's not like transaction, like, oh, I give you money, you do the thing, and like we tick a box. It's like energy sharing. Like, if you can convince somebody that what you're doing is worth backing, like, they're going to give you like positive energy, and that might be money, but it might also be support in some other way. Like,
or like suggestion to other money.
Exactly,
maybe.
exactly. Like, I've met people that have said, oh, I can't sponsor you right now because my company's like raising investment or blah, 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 but I'll put you in touch with this person because I really believe in what you're doing. So have your why, have your USP.
I was going to say the underlying thing seems to be a personality as well. Make sure your personality is coming across, because they could get anyone to do it, but you want it to be you to do it. Not that I want to go sailing. I mean, I want to see the whales and the dolphins and puffins, but I don't want to go sailing particularly. My final question, Nevis has been so good. She's fallen asleep now. Bless her.
It's very tiring.
My final question is supposed to be an easy one, but some people find it a little bit difficult. But what is the soundtrack of the week?
Soundtrack of this week would be, I think, it's going to be something by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Maybe like Can't Stop by the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
I'm a big Dire Straits fan though, but I haven't really listened to them this week. So yeah.
So this time it's Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, that'll be what is going on to your Instagram post.
Nice.
If people want to find you or find your project, how can they find you online?
I'm pretty active on Instagram, and I also have a website. So yeah, just my website has like all the information of my project. It has a little interactive globe that shows my route. That's quite fun.
That is cool.
Yeah.
So it's just Rebecca Coles?
Yeah. So my website is I think it's just rebeccacoles.com. And then my Instagram is at Rebby Coles.
Rebby Coles.
Coles. Yeah.
Okay, fab. Well, thank you so much for letting us into your home and letting us eat our sandwiches on your sofa. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having me on.
You're very welcome. Thank you for listening to this episode with Rebecca. If you enjoyed it, as I said earlier, please follow, like, subscribe, all of those lovely things. If you want to see more of the podcast, you can follow it on Instagram at Only Dead Fish Podcast. It's got all sorts of bits and bobs on there. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the episode and chat next week. Bye-bye.